Alright, y'all, so I just recorded this video and I'm doing my introduction at the end. I just want to warn you guys, I feel unwell after creating this. This is a really, really hard exercise to do. It's one thing to predict the win-loss record on the year, but to go game by game and kind of feel every win and every loss that you have on a season, at least projecting it, it's brutal. Like, the wins and the losses that I projected, I feel like I just went through a journey going through this exercise. So just listen to what I have to say. It kind of comes full circle at the end. I have to kind of not listen to my totally maroon colored brain at times, and I tried really hard to do that in this video. So I just wanted to give you fair warning before that I'm going to be kind of up and down, and by the end of this video, I kind of lose my mind a little bit and start banging on the table a little bit. It gets a little stupid. But you're going to get my win-loss projection on the year, and I think there's some good information about the teams we play. So guys, if you could like and subscribe, it'll help me greatly. I'm trying to grow this. You guys have been great commenting. I definitely want to hear you comment your win-loss projection on the year. Let me know what you think. I'll let past Drew take it away now. I got to say a few things before we get right into it, and I'm going to say some things after I give you my record. You need to know, and you do know this. Like, look at my name, look at my backdrop. I'm a diehard Texas A&M fan. So everything I say is through maroon-colored lenses. Knowing that, I kind of put that into my thought process of making this prediction. I know that I'm going to look at everything in a little bit more of a positive light going towards Texas A&M. So I definitely put that into my calculations for this pick. I'm trying to be as objective as possible here. So every loss I put down for A&M, if there are any, that hurts me to do. So I'll try my best to explain as best I can for each loss. And this is a really, really hard and honestly somewhat unproductive exercise here, because we're going to learn more about this team week to week. Teams are going to change, lineups will change, players will emerge, players will fall off, players will get injured, and all of that will happen to each subsequent team, and that will compound on itself week to week. So what we see in our teams right now, and this is for every team in the country, will not be the same that we see in week 4, 5, 6, all the way to the end. It's going to keep changing. So this is purely a preseason decision. Now, this outlook may change week to week, but my preseason stamp is what it is. That can't change. And I'll be wrong or I'll be right. But I want to reserve the right as we get to the Notre Dame game, get past the Florida game, get past the Missouri game, to kind of adjust my outlook from there forward. And if I have a game as a win or loss on this exercise, that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way when I predict that game for that given week. So let's say I predict we're going to lose to Arkansas. Well, we feel really good about the first 4 weeks. I might change that to predicting a win when it comes to pick that game that week. So keep that in mind as well. So let's get right into the picks. So if you've watched my last video, you already know I'm picking A&M in week 1. So that was already spoiled for you. I think that A&M has the defensive line to stifle that offense, given the fact that they have so many first-game starters on the road at Kyle Field. They're talented players. I have no doubt that Notre Dame will once again put out a quality offensive line, but it is just such a tall ask on the road at Kyle Field. And if you look at Marcus Freeman's track record, he has struggled on the road in the big games. Last year they lost on the road to Clemson and Louisville. The year before it was Ohio State and another team on the road. This is the kind of game that they struggle in. Now, they have the best defense they've probably had in his time there, but we have some level of faith in Connor Wigman, some level of faith in offensive line improvement. Remains to be seen what we get from the receiver group. We feel good about the running back group. I think A&M can win a low-scoring affair versus Notre Dame, and if you saw my last video, you got the score prediction. It was 28-17 Texas A&M. So there you go on that one. Now, instead of going game by game with these McNeeses, the Bowling Greens, and the New Mexico State Aggies, I'm just going to tell you, I think A&M wins all those games. I think Mike Elko's the kind of coach to get this team focused and take the gimmies. No App State funny business. I think A&M is taking care of business in all of those layup-type games. Can't take anything for granted. Can't take anyone lightly. Bowling Green's been in a bowl game the last 2 years, I believe. You can't take them lightly. New Mexico State beat Auburn last year. You can't look past them. You have 2 big games after New Mexico State. I think Elko gets them focused for that. Moving on. This is a highly argued and contested game amongst Aggies. Florida is kind of in a weird place right now. Obviously, Billy Napier securely on the hot seat. No year two bump last year. In fact, they may have regressed last year. Things look really rough. They got lost a lot of players late in last year's cycle. They felt like they had a good recruiting class. Still quality, but fell apart largely late in the season. What makes them good? What are they? I think they're better than what people think they're going to be. And I think people think they're going to be a lot worse because of their insane schedule with like 7 top 15 games in a row to close out the season. Oh, and they open with Miami in their third game is versus A&M. It's like a stupid schedule. So I think for that reason alone, people underrate them. But for Texas A&M, this is the first road test of the year. It's a team that has yet to learn how to win on the road. In this scenario, it'll be a team that's feeling really good after probably a feel-good win versus McNeese and obviously a major emotional victory in Week 1, Kyle Field night atmosphere versus Notre Dame. It's a scary road environment. And they have quality players. They actually rate on Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio, and that basically tells you if you have the pre-required talent to compete for a championship. Nobody who has been under 50% on this ratio has actually won a national championship, and that extends back into the BCS era and through the full duration of the 14 playoff. They're on that. They're over 50%. They have talent. They bring back a running back, an 800-yard back, should be good. Offensive line was a struggle last year, but they add 2 previous starters at other programs in the portal, as well as the number 1 offensive lineman in the portal. Now, I'm not sitting here to say they have a strong offensive line, but they addressed it, and that'll be a common thread with a lot of the teams on this schedule. Defense was bad last year, but they add some pieces in the portal as well, and they get some players back healthy. They got replacements for Jaden Hill and Scooby Williams, who are really excited about at A&M. They feel like they're going to upgrade on defense, even though they also lost Princely Yu. I'm just going to call him that. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Their best defensive end guy to Ole Miss last year. But the rest of that defensive line is back, and they get guys back healthy. So like I said, it's an underrated team. Graham Mertz, one of the best quarterbacks down the stretch last year, at least as far as QBR goes. He was top 5 in the SEC in QBR last year. I think he had like 30 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, something like that. Quality player. They have a good receiver room, and even though they lose Ricky Pearsall, they still feel like with what they bring back, this receiver room could be a strength for them. So I'm not saying there's some juggernaut, but I'm saying if this team's in the Big 12, they might be competing on the upper half of that conference. And you know what? I'm falling for the trap. I'm calling this a loss for Texas A&M. I can't let Texas A&M go unscathed in a year 1 under Mike Elko yet. Now, if A&M beats Florida, beats Notre Dame, and takes care of business for McNeese and Bowling Green, you have a hell of a season coming up. Because I think that shows you what you need to know later down the road. Because teams like South Carolina and Auburn are also not the cellar dwellers that they were before. They have pieces this year, and they can catch you. But if you show that you can beat Florida in Week 3, this could be a 10-plus win team. In fact, you could lose this game and still win 10 games. Let's see what I say. So, hold on. Don't click off yet. We still have more games to get through. As quickly and mysteriously as he arrived, he vanished. Back to Arkansas. Talking about Bobby Petrino. Yes, he's back to the scene of the crime. Looks to rebuild quickly with Sam Pittman on the hot seat. Losing Rocket Sanders to South Carolina. KJ Jefferson to UCF. They do land the number 5 running back in the portal to replace Rocket, who really didn't play last year. In Utah's Jaquindon Jackson, and Boise State's Taylon Green, who's coming off of a sophomore slump where he got benched at times last year, 11 touchdown, like a 6 interception kind of a year. Really good freshman season, kind of bust out on the scene, but just took a dip last year. But this is what Bobby Petrino wanted. He went out and handpicked him. Not terrible, but really bad O-line play last year. There's one team on the schedule that terrible O-line play this year. It was South Carolina, but this was bad offensive line play. They hire an elite offensive line coach in Eric Mateos, who had a Joe Moore finalist offensive line at BYU a few years ago. They bring back 3 starters on the defensive line. They bring back their safeties. They replace Pooh Paul with a former 5-star UGA transfer. They have a question mark at corner, big competition going on there. But overall, I think there are too many question marks and not enough talent, and I think A&M sticks to what they've been doing and beats Arkansas yet again this season. Probably the last year it's in Jerry's world. Although I like that game, I'm in the minority, one of the ones that likes to go there. I don't get to go to Dallas very often. It's my excuse to go to Dallas every year. Always have a good time hitting the restaurants. I go to Six Flags after the game. I have a good time. But I know everybody wants us to be home and home, especially Arkansas. It's actually a good thing for Arkansas because they don't seem to have much success here. I'm sure Jerry Jones isn't happy about that. All right, number 2 of the 4 big home games on the season. Number 11, preseason ranked Missouri Tigers. They are poised to either remain number 11 or be even higher if teams fall off in front of them because they play absolutely nobody before Texas A&M. Their toughest game is home versus Boston College, and they have a bye week when we're playing Arkansas. And I think historically that actually hasn't shown to mean much playing a team that's coming off a bye. Don't worry too much about that. Missouri brings back almost everything from a really, really good offense, including Luther Burden, including Brady Cook, including a bunch of O-linemen, and their entire receiver corps. They do lose their heart and soul running back in Cody Schrader, but they replace it with a 1,000-yard back out of Georgia Southern. This is going to be maybe the best offense we play all year. It's them or Texas, I think. Really, really good offense, and that's the kind of offense that can score on this defense. It's that good. They're going to have that many weapons, that much continuity, that much experience. It's going to be a legit offense. Defensively, total rebuild from the ground up, essentially. They lose Blake Baker, their DC, and a bunch of positional coaches, all to LSU. LSU just raided this defensive room. They bring back, I think, 3 starters. Their best starter is their defensive end, who had 9.5 tackles for loss last year and 5 sacks. He's like their only real star they bring back in Johnny Walker. But they lose everything else on defense. So they bring a couple guys that are in the rotation back, but look at a full reset on defense, taking a big step back on defense that was really the unsung hero of that team. Of course, that offense, Luther Burden, Cody Schrader, Brady Cook, got all the attention. That was a good defensive team. They were like 11th in sacks last year. They got after quarterbacks. That was a good offense-defense dynamic, and that's taking a step back. But that offense is going to be damn good. So I'm looking at a shootout type of game in Kyle Field. They're going to score on our defense. I don't know what we're going to get from A&M's offense. Is this the kind of offense at A&M that can get in like a 40 to 50-point shootout? Is that the kind of offense we have? On that same token, is this defense the kind of defense that can hold that kind of offense to 30? I don't know. This is a really freaking good offense, man. It's really freaking good. This is also an 11 a.m. kickoff in Kyle Field, so a little bit less raucous, late arriving crowd in Kyle Field. Try to get there early and do your whatever festivities you do before games early, because if you're showing up on time to an 11 a.m. game, you are late. So Aggies, if you're going to this game, get there early. That 11 a.m. kickoff is a godsend for a road team in a raucous, elite environment like Kyle Field. Because of that, because of the offense, because of the nature of the shootout, and the fact that I don't think A&M goes undefeated with those 4 teams at home, top 15 teams, I'm calling this one a loss. And I'm calling Mississippi State a win. Didn't mean to do that, but we'll talk about it in a second. I don't know if this is the loss of those 4 games, but I do feel like A&M doesn't come out undefeated in that 4-game stretch. They could. There's a world where they do. But this is still year 1, and we still have question marks on offense. Maybe they're answered by this game, and I told you, I reserve the right to change my opinion. But this is a major playoff marker to me, this game, because I do feel like A&M splits Notre Dame and Florida. That's something I feel pretty strongly about. I don't think they beat both of them. I think they lose one. So regardless of what happens there, if you beat Missouri, you have everything on the table with Mississippi State and 2 bye weeks ahead of you, and New Mexico State. I think that game is really a boost if you're able to win it. That's like kind of a hinge point kind of a game. I have A&M losing it. Absolutely a winnable game. But I think that's the kind of morning slog versus a really good offense that's going to travel. Experienced offense coming off of that Ohio State win in the bowl game. I'm calling it a loss here, but my confidence level is not like, we're losing this game. And if they win it, and you have 1 loss at that point, everything's on the table, and this is looking like a 10-win team. So, there you are. Mississippi State is going over a full rebuild. They lose all 11 starters on offense, 8 out of 11 starters on defense. New coach who didn't do like the whole transfer portal rebuild in his year 1. Jury's still out on Jeff Levy. He has time, obviously. Big feel-good win, getting right versus the Mississippi schools on the road. Finally get that one under your belt. So you feel good after that. Going home to face LSU, probably wearing your black jerseys. Halloween game. Hopefully a night game. Hopefully a primetime night game. So it's well documented. We're Aggies. We kind of follow LSU since we play them every year. We know what they lost. They lost those two amazing wide receivers, Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, to the NFL. They lost the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. And they also lost Mike Denbrock to Notre Dame. We're still going to play them, but not with LSU this year. That was a special offense. And we know that that was a championship-level offense. But that defense was so bad, it held them out of consideration. Is the defense good enough, now improved in year 2 with a fully rebuilt staff, to claw that offense back up into that kind of consideration? Now, I'm not saying this offense is going to be bad. It might be pretty damn good. What they bring back is that stabilizing offensive line. 4 out of 5 starters. Will Campbell, one of the best tackle prospects at left tackle in the game. They start a young center. He should be fine with what's around him. He had a red shirt under his belt. That's going to be a solid offensive line. They bring back an elite tight end in Mason Taylor. Garrett Nussmeier, it's his time. He's been waiting for like 3 years now. Every time he's played, he's looked solid. He won't be as good as Jaden Daniels. He won't be as dynamic. But he'll be more of a classic style quarterback with some ability to run. And they'll go back to a more balanced approach, running between the tackles with their running backs. Receiver room has some question marks. You obviously have Kyron Lacey, who was in that rotation. He was the third receiver in that arsenal last year. They have a couple of options. Chris Hilton, upperclassman going into his 4th year. Kyle Parker got reps in spring. Xavier Thomas, former number 1 player out of Louisiana in 22. And Bama transfer Aaron Anderson. They have a bunch of options there. And with LSU, they're going to put decent receivers out, but nothing proven besides Kyron Lacey, so that remains to be seen. The offense takes a step back. The defense maybe takes a step forward, but you're going from like 130th to what? 80th? They're probably going to improve at linebacker with Harold Perkins getting a year older. The guy next to him's back. They're probably going to improve at secondary. They're moving some guys back to their natural positions, some guys maybe stepping up in camp. Defensive line is such a question mark and almost a downright mess, in my opinion. So they go from 130th to 70th, 60th at best, and their offense takes a step back. I think it's a 9-8 win year for LSU this year. And I think A&M beats them at home in a really, really feel-good win. Elko gets his first win versus a rival in Kyle Field. LSU goes down. A&M's feeling really damn good at this point because you've beaten Notre Dame, you've won a couple games you're supposed to win, and you've beaten LSU. 2 huge wins under your belt. A&M's probably top 15 at this point with 2 losses. You're still in the hunt for the playoff here. At South Carolina is a really scary game for A&M. Very underrated team, in my opinion. Very, very underrated team. So you look at them last year. Spencer Rattler, pretty good quarterback. Xavier Legette and Juice Wells. Juice Wells never really played. Legette was solid. Spencer Rattler make magic happen with that really bad offensive line performance last year. Like, embarrassingly bad offensive line performance. They had their reasons. They couldn't shake the injury bug. They kept losing players on that O-line. We know how that can be. Think about our 2022 year. They had their South Carolina version of that year. Freshmen playing, those freshmen getting hurt. Younger, less ready, less competent freshmen had to play. Compound issues. They get most of that O-line back. 4 starters, 4 players with the most starters are back on that offensive line. Maybe that continuity helps them a lot. They have Lenore Sellers at quarterback now, a big dual-threat quarterback, a guy that can definitely run and like bulldoze people. And they add Rocket Sanders to that backfield. So that could be a really dynamic running attack you're looking at if that offensive line improves. Oh, and I think they probably still have their best receiver on the team in Nick Harbor. That might be the best running receiver prospect they've had in recent history. That guy is really freaking good. Now, I don't know what they have the rest of the room. That remains to be seen. But if they get improved offensive line play, that could be a scary offense. Like, not elite, top of the line, but one that can make stuff happen against a pretty good defense. So keep an eye on that. Defensively, they bring back 8 starters. They bring back 4 out of 5 in their secondary. They rebuild a lot in the portal. This could be a good defense, too. They could be a sneaky good team in South Carolina. I think they're being overlooked a little bit. But I don't think they catch the Aggies. I think the Aggies have made a habit of winning in Williams-Brice Stadium, and I think they keep it going. I'll tell you more about my overall thoughts once we get through these last 2 games. But you see we're beating New Mexico State. That's a win. And then you're going into your big-time home stretch. These are 2 really tough, scary games, guys. Auburn, probably going to finish bottom half of the SEC. Maybe not. Hugh Freeze is building a dang program, man. He's recruiting great. Definitely investing in the long term with younger players instead of just going all in on the portal right now. Obviously, Cam Coleman is there and the other 5-star receiver in Perry Thompson. They're young, but they're not going to be young by the time this game happens. They're going to be grizzled vets. I mean, you're not really a true freshman once you get through the first few games of your freshman year. These guys aren't babies anymore at this point. You could say the same about some Aggies, but for a really young team, it probably means a little bit more to get through some games. They do bring back Peyton Thorne, and insert your meme here. I will say this about Peyton Thorne. He's a tough guy, and he's a little bit faster than you would expect. He's a dual threat. I think his best attribute is running with the football. But can he get these receivers the ball? That's the big question. If they figure out some kind of connection there, Cam Coleman could fight for like second-team All-SEC honors as a true freshman if he gets quarterback play. It's pretty crazy. They bring back one of the hottest running backs in the country down the stretch of the year last year in Jarquez Hunter. Really good running back room. They bring back two other rotational running backs from last year, including Brian Batty at a UCF who returns kicks for them. Here's one thing, though. They got DJ Durkin on that defense, man, and what does that mean? Oh, my goodness. It means they'll be good, but they'll leave something on the table because he had decent defenses at A&M. They weren't terrible defenses, but we always felt like he left a little something on the table, or maybe a lot of something, and maybe just misutilized some guys, and maybe did things that Mike Elko would do a little bit differently. They have that guy. And they bring back a pretty good defensive front, led by Eugene Asante. He's the guy that had that fumble return or interception return where Jimbo was on the field, all over the field last year, breakout player last year, led the team in tackles by far last year. He's back. They bring back a good linebacker crew, pretty good defensive line group. Kind of a rebuild in the secondary. There's some hope there. They're kind of bullish on what they're doing there, but they lose what made them special or good last year. Their best attribute on their team was their DB room. They lose 4 of them, and 3 of them to the NFL. They were good players. That was their best aspect on the team. I didn't mean to say Auburn was special right there. They lost their best aspect on the team, so that could be scary with Durkin. And the big thing, this is textbook, definition, look it up. This is a trap game. You got Texas the next week. You got a bye week in New Mexico State before. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that helps. But that's more time to be thinking about that Texas game that's looming. And you know some players on this roster are thinking about it. And I'm not trying to point fingers and say anybody's looking ahead. But human nature is human nature, man. That's a scary game versus a good team that's really well coached at a really weird place to play. Jordan-Hare Stadium, confirmed built on an ancient Indian burial ground. Weird things, weird juju, Santeria, etc., etc. I hate to do it. We'll talk about it after. I have A&M losing it. Yeah. Feels bad, man. It feels really bad. I have us with 3 losses at this point going into probably the best team we're going to play all year. Right? Like, that doesn't feel good. Playoff might be out the window now. Although not necessarily. I think there's a world where there's enough chaos where a 9-win SEC team can get in, but you have to beat Texas to do that. Can you beat Texas? Best team on the roster. One of the most seasoned quarterbacks in the country. Say what you will about him. He has the most experience at this level of quarterback probably in the country, maybe besides Dylan Gabriel. Great offensive line. Skill positions, jury's still out on them in my opinion, especially after losing Baxter. I think Blue's really good. But the receiver room, to me, still a question mark. You got to figure that out. They will have figured it out by then, but A&M will have also figured everything out by then. And I think this A&M defense matches up pretty good with that offense. I think if anyone's going to make that offensive line strain, it's going to be A&M's defensive line. And who knows who's emerged by then. Maybe a GBD has come into his own by then. Maybe DJ Hicks is a menace by then. Maybe Rylan Kennedy and Malik Silla are monsters by then. I think we go at that offensive line. And I think their defense can be had. Maybe the second best defense on this schedule. But I don't know if that's saying much. Notre Dame's really good. Then it's maybe Texas. Big rivalry. Kyle Field. Oh my goodness. Are you going to this game? You dropping the dime to go? I mean, come on now. That's crazy. Good for you. I have A&M winning it. A&M's not losing to freaking Texas at home. The first year they're in the conference. I hope they're undefeated. Or I hope they have a playoff berth on the line. And I hope we crush their dreams. That's what I want. And that's what's happening. I'm predicting it. We're going to destroy Texas in this last game of the year. Look, they're going to be a good team. They're going to have 9 or 10 wins at this point in the year. In my prediction, they have 10 wins at this point in the year. I think they lose to Michigan. I have them beating Georgia. Whatever. They could lose to Georgia. I think they have 9 or 10 wins at this point of the year. and I think A&M absolutely crushes in the last game of the year. A&M goes 9-3. Right? I don't know. Doesn't feel great as much as it feels good to beat Notre Dame, LSU, and Texas in a year, right? Doesn't that feel really freaking good? But the teams I have them losing to does not feel good. So here's how I'm feeling. This is the thing. My brain, my heart, my butt, everything in my body, my freaking, everything says 10-2 this year. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I look through such maroon tinted lenses, I have to not listen to myself a little bit. Therefore, I added a loss. I really feel 10-2. But if I'm going to use the logic part of my brain, I can't listen to the thinking part of my brain. Does that make any sense? No, but it doesn't matter. I feel 10-2 with the way Elko has this team, with the fall camp reports we've gotten. There's literally, according to insiders, one big question mark, and that's receiver consistency. But we've also heard that Terry Bussey's coming on at receiver, and that might alleviate some of the depth and rotation and explosiveness problems with this offense. Sounds like people are bullish on the offensive line. Sounds like Adam Cushing's getting his work done. Those 2 losses on the road, Florida and Auburn. You could move either of those to South Carolina. You could get rid of both of them. That Missouri game, you could win that game. That Notre Dame game, you could lose that game and then win the rest of them. We know about this schedule. You have your 4 toughest games at home, but the road games are consistently not easy. There's a world where A&M wins 10 games. There's a world where A&M wins 8 games. I'm going right in the middle at 9-3. So comment, tell me why you think I'm wrong. 9-3 feels good, but when you look at this freaking schedule, man, you feel like you left something on the damn table. You feel like you beat Florida, right? You feel like you beat Auburn. You feel like you beat damn Missouri. Oh, I want to be wrong so bad. I want to be wrong in the best ways possible. Comment your score predictions. I know this video probably went long. If you made it to the end of the video, let me know, because I'm thinking I'm making my videos too long. My Notre Dame video, I was happy with it. 35 freaking minutes. Are you watching these? Let me know. Tell me your score prediction. Like and subscribe. Thank you all. I'll see you in the next one. Gig 'em.